This is the Flavor of Leadership podcast. I am your host, Clint Hoops. Together, we explore the unique blend of leadership wisdom that helps top leaders consistently achieve work goals, develop personally, and find fulfillment with family. Let's get started. Welcome to the Flavor of Leadership podcast. This is episode number 19. Can you believe that we are already in the month of March? It's kind of blowing my mind that it is already March. And so I figured it is time to check in on how you're doing for your goals for 2021. You know, whether you set New Year's resolutions personally, or if you have, goals for your company or your department or whatever you have at work, how are they doing? Are you falling into the bad statistics that get that get quoted this time of year? You know, I've heard a bunch of different statistics get thrown out from time to time, but I've heard that about 10% of people actually keep their New Year's resolutions. And so I'm hoping that you are in that 10% that have actually kept your New Year's resolutions so far, or your other goals that you have. But if not, don't worry. You're in good company with about 90% of people. So it's not too late, though. It's not too late to be able to move over to that 10%, even if you have failed early on in. So what causes us to fail? Man, this happens to us so often. We'll set these goals, we'll have great intentions, and then we'll begin to miss the vision each day and begin to let it slip. And once it slips one day, it's easier to let it slip another day. And it just keeps going. So for me, I find that I often try to set too many goals on too many things at once. I try to make too many changes at too many different parts of life at once. But I find that when I set, one big goal or a couple of big goals that I can accomplish little by little, that's when I seem to have the most success. Even though that's really hard for me sometimes because I really do like to set big goals. I like to accomplish big things. And so sometimes it's hard to tone that down a little bit and focus. But when I have the focus, it's amazing how I seem to accomplish them. So let's talk about this a little bit more. There's a book called Great by Choice. Now, I love Jim Collins. He's a great author. I love all of the different things that he shares. And in this book, Great by Choice, I want to share a little story. I'm going to paraphrase the story here, but in the book, Great by Choice, Jim Collins talks about a person that starts in California. So they're going to start on a hike essentially, and they're going to go walking from California all the way across the entire United States. This man, he decides to go 20 miles every single day. So it doesn't matter. If the weather is perfect, he'll go 20 miles. If the weather is too cold, too hot, or if he's tired or whatever it is, doesn't matter. This man is still going to go 20 miles every single day. Till one day, he reaches his goal. He's going to get to the other side of the United States, having walked the entire way 20 miles every day, rain or shine. So on the other hand, let's suppose there is another man that starts out same place, same time, same day in California, ready to set out on a journey, right? And Jim Collins shares that this man, he decided to go 40 miles on the first day, because he's super excited. But then the next day, he's, so tired and worn out from the first day that he decides to take a break, thinking, hey, I'll make up for it later on, right? Because the day was too hot. And he just didn't want to go out. So when the weather was good, he'll make up for it on other days. So that keeps happening, right? Other days he'll go 30 miles or go 60 miles, and then he'll take days off again. And over, the inconsistency makes it very hard for him to accomplish his goal. And before you know it, this man lags far, far behind the man who just went 20 miles day in, day out, day in, and day out. So in the book, he refers to this as the 20-mile march. And so I found this to be true in my life, that when I'm consistent with the small things and I just try and win a little bit each day, I, check that box, whatever it is, and make sure that I accomplish that small goal each day, I'll find that I look back and realize that I really have accomplished something great very often through my efforts in my own 20-mile march that happens. It's much harder because I know often we want to have these huge leaps and bounds, and we do. We get a lot of satisfaction out of that. I do as well. I love having some, making huge efforts on my goals. But I have to remind myself often that that's when we get burned out. That's when we give up on the journey, is when we try to push too hard and too inconsistently. So some things that can seem nearly impossible because of how big they are can be accomplished by, this 20-mile march. And so here's the challenge for this week. If you've already failed your New Year's resolutions, don't worry. It's all right. If you've already written off a worthwhile goal in your life, but you still want to accomplish it deep down, it's okay. Now is the time to reevaluate and recommit to a consistent 20-mile march of your own. Don't let yourself get derailed by inconsistency. Reevaluate the goal if you need to somewhat to make it something that you can do every single day, and then don't let yourself fail. Don't let yourself give up. If it's something that's worth committing to, something worth setting a goal about, do it. Make it happen. And it will seem to get easier with time. It will. You'll stop needing to use your willpower to be able to accomplish the goal. The consistency will drive you forward, and you won't let yourself fail. You got this. Till next week. Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of the Flavor of Leadership podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback for us, you can reach me directly at flavorofleadership.com. Thanks for listening.